is illegal on stolen land.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. Either give the land back or shut the up. If we're going to do acknowledgements, shouldn't we acknowledge that that was kind of up? Did you know that well before 1619, Indians practiced slavery here in America? And the Apache, Iroquois, and Sioux all tried to wipe out their fellow tribes. I know it's comforting to think that there was this ethereal time and place before white guys in suits, when everyone was a gentle, nature-loving child poet who split their time between riding deer and drinking dew.
Billie Eilish lit the match herself, and now the backlash feels inevitable. The Grammy-winning pop star took aim at ICE and Donald Trump, and stepping in to push back was none other than Bill Maher. The real-time host dismantled Eilish's perceived double standards with sharp precision, delivering a critique that was equal parts biting and comedic. If bold political commentary is your thing, hit subscribe and let's dive in.
Finally, new rule, memo to Democrats. If you ever want to win an election again, the absolute most important first step is stop doing this.
We gather in celebration of the Oscars on the ancestral lands of the Tongva, Tataviam, and Chumash peoples, the traditional caretakers of this water and land.
Yeah, I don't know if we're still saying cringe. But if we are, that's this. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Either give the land back or shut the fuck up. Look, I understand the desire to right the wrongs of the past, especially when you get to take the moral high ground and then build an 8,000 square foot mansion on it.
If you've followed us for a while, you already know that Bill Maher has little tolerance for celebrities who transform award shows into political platforms. In his view, popularity doesn't equal knowledge, and loud applause doesn't create authority. That's why he quickly focused on Billie Eilish after she accepted an award and stated, "Nobody is illegal on stolen land." The comment drew loud cheers inside the venue, but it immediately sparked Maher's criticism that on Real Time with Bill Maher, he responded with a mix of sarcasm and pointed reasoning. If she genuinely believes the land is stolen, he argued, then the ethical response isn't a catchy slogan, it's real action. Return the property. Give it back. Otherwise, skip the public sermon. Notably, Eilish's multi-million-dollar residence in Los Angeles stands on land historically connected to the Tongva people. A reporter later approached her home, asking whether she planned to return it, saying, "Let us in, Billie. We're here because this is stolen land, and perhaps we should have access to your beautiful $3 million mansion." Unsurprisingly, entry was denied. Suddenly, a worldview critical of borders seemed comfortable with gates, security, and privacy. Eilish may believe in boundaries when they protect her own space, yet her public rhetoric suggests something broader. That tension is exactly what Maher continues to highlight. If the land is truly stolen, he asks, why not return it or relocate? His argument is straightforward. Many celebrities, he says, chase applause instead of consistency, favoring statements that sound morally powerful over personal choices that reflect those same principles.
Let us in, please, Billie. We are here because this is stolen land, Billie, and we think we should be given access to your quite lovely $3 million mansion.
Bill Maher has also criticized other celebrities and public figures who repeat land acknowledgements almost like a scripted ritual, arguing that the practice often feels hollow and performative. And to many observers, the contradiction is difficult to ignore. Numerous speakers express solidarity with Native American communities during ceremonies and public events, yet few appear willing to take meaningful personal steps that align with those words. They rarely change their lifestyles, surrender property, or give up privilege, but they readily offer carefully crafted sympathy from a podium. During the administration of Joe Biden, land acknowledgement statements became increasingly common at official gatherings, repeated so frequently that they sometimes sounded rehearsed. Still, Maher's main question lingers. What concrete results came from all those declarations? There were no significant land returns, no sweeping structural reforms, just applause, media attention, and moral positioning that allowed public figures to appear principled without making substantial sacrifices in return.
I'm sure Julianne Hough is sincere about her love for the Chumash people, but I doubt she drives to work in a canoe, scavenges for acorns, or lives in a dome house made of reeds and dried mud. That's Woody Harrelson.
Now this is where Bill Maher really presses what he considers the absurd edge of the debate. He points to developments in New Zealand, where certain natural landmarks have been granted legal personhood. Within Maori tradition, mountains are regarded as ancestors, living presences deserving recognition and protection. Maher makes clear that his critique isn't directed at the culture itself, but at what he views as the surrounding political spectacle. In his view, turning geographic features into legal persons illustrates how symbolism can begin to overshadow practical solutions. If a mountain is legally a person, he asks, what concrete issue is actually being addressed? Are communities seeing measurable improvements, or is it largely symbolic reassurance? Maher uses the example to argue that influential circles often reward symbolic gestures over substantive change, and his closing remark underscores the contradiction in a way that's hard to dismiss.
Thank a tribe for Hollywood. Start with the Jews. Now, a few weeks ago in New Zealand, a modern, educated, technologically advanced country, they passed a law making a mountain a person. True, because their indigenous people, the Maori, believe that mountains and rivers are their ancestors, and so the mountain has been legally recognized to have all the rights of a human being. It has all the responsibilities, liabilities, duties, and powers of a human being, which, if you follow that to its logical conclusion, means the mountain can get a driver's license, vote, or adopt a rescue dog, and you should see its dating profile.
Bill Maher pushes the argument even further by questioning the idealized image of ancient societies that some modern celebrities appear to celebrate. Referencing voices like Billie Eilish, he argues that people in the distant past weren't morally superior. They were simply constrained by the knowledge, science, and institutions available in their era. They operated within the limits of what they understood. Today, however, humanity benefits from centuries of advancement, broader insight, and more developed legal and ethical systems. Maher's message is direct. Progress should not be mistaken for decline, and moving backward should not be framed as virtue. In his view, appealing to the past as a moral standard while fully embracing the conveniences of modern life amounts to selective nostalgia rather than wisdom. True moral seriousness, he contends, demands consistency and action, not just emotionally powerful lines that resonate from a stage.
Please get over this idea that ancient people weren't just as full of shit, in fact, more full of shit than humans today. It's so simplistic, this idea of guilt by civilization, that being ancient and indigenous and not us was always better than us. It wasn't. The Maori in pre-colonial times were like most indigenous people, quite warlike, frequently fighting other tribes, with the winners enslaving the losers and even eating them. Yeah, have the mountain tell you that story next time you get it drunk.
Bill Maher keeps circling back to one pointed question. If someone genuinely believes they're occupying stolen land, then the logical response isn't delivering another speech, it's returning it. He directs that critique at celebrities such as Billie Eilish, who use powerful moral rhetoric while continuing to enjoy luxury on the same land they criticize. Maher's stance is straightforward. He argues that conviction without personal cost amounts to performance, and he sharpens the challenge further. If modern society is supposedly worse than ancient ways of living, then why hold onto its advantages? Why keep the estates, the security systems, and the status? His central theme is consistency. It's simple to romanticize simpler eras in theory, but far more difficult to relinquish the rewards of contemporary life. In Maher's view, authentic belief isn't demonstrated through applause lines. It's proven by the willingness to live according to those principles.
Hippies love to harp on how the 1950s was backward, and 1950s was backward, as every past era was, but somehow they see indigenous life in the 1550s as the pinnacle of enlightenment. Besides being ignorant, it's hypocritical because, the ancient lifestyle is available to you. You could live outside and forage for food and wash your clothes in a pond. We have that today. It's called being homeless, and it sucks.
Bill Maher ultimately reduces his position to one central theme. Civilization is defined by movement and development. Throughout history, people have migrated, settled new regions, fought wars, and rebuilt societies over thousands of years. By that measure, residing on land once occupied by others is not a uniquely modern wrongdoing. It reflects the broader arc of human history. Maher contends that labeling present-day individuals as morally illegitimate overlooks the way history has consistently unfolded. Borders have changed, empires have risen and collapsed, and populations have blended and relocated. These patterns didn't start in recent times, nor did they conclude here. His argument isn't about dismissing history, but about challenging the notion that modern citizens must carry endless guilt for events they did not personally shape. In his view, real progress means improving the present rather than continually condemning it for the distant past.
But Bill, they lived in harmony with nature. Yeah, they had to, because no one had invented the toilet yet. The march of civilization has been bloody and painful, but we generally got to a better place, not a worse one. And not just technologically, but how we treat each other. Did you ever see the movie Apocalypto? Where the peaceful, enlightened Mayans built a big ziggurat so they could literally make heads roll in order to appease the gods and make it rain? Yeah, you don't see that on the Land O'Lakes box.
Bill Maher maintains that history is far more intricate than the simplified versions often repeated in modern debates. Long before contemporary nations were formed, indigenous tribes engaged in fierce struggles over territory, resources, and survival. Land was not peacefully shared in lasting harmony. It was contested, defended, and seized, just as it has been across centuries on every continent. Maher's argument is that territorial conflict did not suddenly appear with modern settlers. It reflects a much older human pattern. Authority shifted repeatedly, and no society retained control of land indefinitely without facing resistance. That reality makes it difficult to frame history as a straightforward story of permanent villains and innocent victims. His perspective suggests that truly understanding the past requires confronting its full complexity rather than highlighting selected chapters while overlooking others that challenge today's prevailing moral narratives.
To do acknowledgements, shouldn't we acknowledge that that was kind of fucked up? Did you know that well before 1619, Indians practiced slavery here in America? And the Apache, Iroquois, and Sioux all tried to wipe out their fellow tribes. I know it's comforting to think that there was this ethereal time and place before white guys in suits, when everyone was a gentle, nature-loving child poet who split their time between riding deer and drinking dew.
Bill Maher distills his position into what he considers a basic truth. History is not a clean narrative divided between flawless victims and permanent oppressors. He challenges celebrities and progressive lawmakers who recite land acknowledgements as though ownership has always been clear-cut and morally fixed. In Maher's perspective, ancient civilizations were not uniquely noble, they were human. They waged wars, protected territory, and seized land from competitors, much like countless societies have done throughout time. That leads to a difficult question. If territory shifted repeatedly long before modern states emerged, how far back should we trace rightful ownership, and who has the authority to decide? Maher contends that symbolic gestures frequently overlook this broader context. In his view, repeating moral pronouncements without confronting the full sweep of human history risks simplifying a complicated reality, substituting layered understanding with rhetoric that sounds compelling but leaves the fundamental issues unanswered.
True. What the European invaders did to the Indians, not good, but also not unusual. American Indians waged wars constantly, like Blake Lively. And the Comanche were polygamists whose leaders could bear children with a dozen women, like Elon Musk.
At the core of Bill Maher's critique is a demand for clarity, consistency, and historical perspective. Public figures such as Billie Eilish may feel they are promoting justice by speaking about stolen land, but Maher underscores what he sees as a gap between rhetoric and reality. If that conviction is sincere, he argues, it should require meaningful sacrifice, not just powerful speeches or applause-worthy statements. History, he stresses, has never been tidy. Early societies were not flawless moral examples. They battled, conquered, and reclaimed territory just as humans have done across centuries. Modern civilization, with its evolving institutions, knowledge, and ethical standards, may be imperfect, but in his view, it represents advancement rather than inherited blame. Maher's broader argument is that symbolic acts like land acknowledgements, though emotionally resonant, fail to address deeper structural issues. Genuine accountability and understanding come from informed action, not performative gestures. Until principles are reflected in tangible choices, he suggests it remains theater, and he doesn't hesitate to say so. And with that perspective, we close today's discussion. If you found this analysis engaging, consider liking the video and subscribing for more thought-provoking commentary. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.